They know who invented hashtag trust the process.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily podcast on fantasy basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. And today's Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast is also brought to you by Blue Apron. Go to blueapron.com/LOFB to get yourself 3 free meals today. My name is Josh Lloyd, and as always, you can find me on Twitter at redrock_bball, the same on Instagram. And you can help support the show by heading across to patreon.com/redrock_bball as well. This show, what we're going to be looking at is Dynasty Drafts. So got the 5 Red Rock Dynasty Leagues that started their rookie drafts a couple of days ago. We are at varying stages through those drafts. So going to be talking about how the rookies are being valued from a Dynasty perspective. You'll see that some people have varying degrees of trust or varying opinions on the value of some of these rookies. So it is going to be interesting to get a look across 5 separate leagues to see where some of these guys are getting picked. So
let's get to it.
We're also doing this show, now normally I do the show live on my Facebook page, but this one's going out live on the Locked On Podcast Network Facebook page, which we're going to make a thing every Thursday in the US. It's going to be multiple Locked On Podcast shows. Locked On Network shows will be going live on the Facebook page on Thursday. So there's already been the Hornets one today. I think there's a couple more coming after this show today. So stay tuned and make sure you do like that Locked On Podcast Network Facebook page for our live day Thursdays. I'm not sure exactly what we're calling it yet, but that's what I'm going with at this point. So check that out, and you can check out a whole bunch of shows across the Locked On Podcast Network. Before I get into the bulk of this show, let's talk about the sponsors who are making this show possible, and that is Blue Apron. Blue Apron is the #1 fresh ingredient and recipe delivery service in the United States, and its mission is to make incredible home cooking accessible to everyone. It's an absolutely fantastic service. I've just come back from the US, used some Blue Apron over there when I was staying with my brother. Love the product. The food is absolutely fantastic. The standards of food are excellent. The recipes are excellent. The ease of cooking is fantastic. And one of the best things I find about Blue Apron is the waste. There is no waste. You're not going there and you're cooking for 2 people and having to buy a whole massive head of lettuce. If you need lettuce, it comes in a bag, the correct size. You're not throwing out multiple cloves of garlic because you bought a head of garlic and only needed 1 clove. That's not the way Blue Apron works. All the food comes pre-portioned to you. All the food is also, called the seafood, is sourced sustainably under standards developed in partnership with the Monterey Bay Aquarium Seafood Watch. Beef, chicken, and pork comes from responsibly raised animals, and all the produce is sourced from farms that practice regenerative farming. In the coming weeks, we've got some great upcoming meals on Blue Apron. Basil pesto chicken with summer vegetable panzanella, sauteed shrimp and green beans with globe tomatoes, spinach and orzo pasta, and whole grain pasta and summer vegetables with heirloom tomato caprese salad. That's just some of the selection of meals you can find over at Blue Apron. It's affordable, the food is fantastic, the recipes are awesome, and you're going to learn something about cooking as well. To go and check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals free with free shipping, go to blueapron.com/LOFB. You'll love how good it feels and tastes to create incredible home cooked meals with Blue Apron, so don't wait. That's blueapron.com/LOFB. Blue Apron, a better way to cook. Let's talk about these Dynasty Leagues now. Now, I've got 5 Dynasty Leagues that I run. One of them is in the 3rd season. That's the Red Rock Dynasty League, the original Dynasty League that I set up. 16 teams, 25 players per roster. Huge rosters, obviously. 400 players deep this league goes. We're in the 3rd season of this league now. There's been an extraordinary amount of trading in all of these leagues. We'll go through this one first. The other four leagues are all 30-team leagues. I think you'll find a pretty common theme at the top of all these leagues. In this one here, I'll just go through the top 5 picks. Markelle Fultz went at number 1. Lonzo Ball went at number 2. Dennis Smith went at number 3. Jonathan Isaac at 4. And Jason Tatum at pick 5. It's really hard to disagree with any of that. Just a quick thing. I'm in the middle of doing projections over on Basketball Monster, and Lonzo Ball's numbers are coming out unbelievably high, like unbelievably high. Not that I say that he should be the number 1 dynasty pick. I still think it should be Fultz because I think he can be the overall better player in time. But for this coming season, I think that Lonzo Ball is going to be the number 1 rookie, and he's going to have a chance to put up good numbers. I'm looking at these numbers going, these are crazy. These don't look right, but I keep doing them, and they are looking right. So that's just something to keep in mind. So Fultz, Ball, Smith, that's a pretty common theme you'll find through all dynasty leagues to see those 3 guys go in the first 3 picks. And the order that you pick them in, that's the exact order I would take them. I didn't have any of those picks. Fultz, Ball, and Smith were the first 3. That's the order I'd do it. But if you took Ball first, I wouldn't have any complaints with that. If you took Smith first, I wouldn't have any complaints with that at all. John Isaac at 4. I know a lot of people will think that's a weird pick. That is, I'm totally on board with that. I think Jonathan Isaac has a tremendous upside. I think he's got a great fantasy upside as well, higher than Jackson's, higher than Tatum's. For his ability to do everything, hit threes, block shots, get steals, grab rebounds at a high rate, be efficient from the field, good free throw shooter, can score as well. Now he's in Orlando, yes, Aaron Gordon's there, but I think at some point Isaac will play the 5. And I do really like his dynasty upside. Tatum went at 5 here. Josh Jackson went at 6, and that was actually my pick at pick 6. I was debating, do I take Jackson? Do I take Fox? In hindsight, maybe I wish I took Fox, but I ended up with Josh Jackson. I'm never convinced that he is going to be a superstar. I'm not convinced Fox is going to be a superstar either. Jackson, with his lack of shooting, is a concern, but I think he's going to see the court a lot, and I think he's going to be able to put up some good peripheral numbers. So that's where I went with him there at 6. De'Aaron Fox went at 7, and then Donovan Mitchell jumped up a fair bit from his draft spot. He went at pick 8, and I can't really disagree with that pick at all. It's a solid selection. His fantasy numbers translate fantastically, in large part because of his high steal rate. So I think that's an awesome pick to get Donovan Mitchell there at 8. Frank Ntilikina went at 9. Well, these next 3 picks were all made by the same person. Frank Ntilikina at 9, Larry Markkinen at 10, and Malik Monk at 11. Again, really hard to complain about any of those. There are players I would have had personally over Markkinen and over Monk, and that's a couple of these guys that went next. We had Zach Collins go at pick 12 and Johnny Collins go at pick 13. I would have taken John Collins ahead of Markkinen at pick 10 there, just behind Frank. But again, it's all about how you value these guys. But it's a pretty similar group of guys you'll see. At 14, OG Anunoby went, Luke Kennard went at 15, and Bam Adebayo went at 16. I like Anunoby. He obviously went way higher here than what he did in the real draft. The knee injury is a concern for this year, but you talk about guys that can get steals and blocks in big numbers, and they can be super useful in fantasy, and that's exactly what OG can be. So I like taking him there ahead of a guy like Kennard, who is, he's got the potential to be Jimmer Fredette, perhaps, a guy that scores and doesn't do much else and struggles in other areas. I'm not saying he's Jimmer, but he's a guy that has limited fantasy upside. Bam Adebayo is an interesting one. His path to minutes is obviously blocked for a fair bit with Hassan Whiteside there, but he looked pretty good in Summer League. Pick 17 was Harry Giles, and then we saw Jordan Bell go at pick 18, which is obviously hugely increased from what his actual draft slot was, but I don't hate it. I think Jordan Bell should have been a first-round pick, should have been a pick in the 20s, in the early 20s, and his ability to be a fantasy influencer is absolutely huge. So love that pick there. Justin Jackson, Jarrett Allen were the next 2, and then at pick 21, Kyle Kuzma, which I think is a decent spot for Kuzma. He looked really good in Summer League. Obviously, Larry Nance and Julius Randle and Brandon Ingram are all in front of him at the moment, so he does have a little bit of a path to minutes in front of him, especially for this season. If Randle gets moved, then maybe something happens there. But then you've also got the Lakers potentially, Paul George, LeBron James, all these rumors swirling around. So while Kuzma looked good, his translations weren't fantastic coming out of college. Looked good in Summer League, but we'll wait and see. But at pick 21, it's a responsible pick. I do really like it there. Let's move into the 30-team leagues now. Two of these leagues are real salary cap leagues. Not that it should make too much difference in terms of picking the rookies, but that's what they are. The other ones are not. Let's look at the ones that are not first, the non-real salary cap leagues, and you'll see some of these leagues are in way different positions in terms of the draft. The first one, which is the Bernard King division, we had Fultz, Ball, and Smith go with the first 3 picks, exactly the same as the Red Rock Dynasty League. And then things changed a little bit. De'Aaron Fox went at pick 4 to make it 4 point guards in a row, and that's not an abnormal thing, I don't think. John Isaac at 5, Jason Tatum at 6. And the big difference you see here is that Andrew at pick 7 went with John Collins. And John Collins went at 19 in the real draft, so a big jump forward. But he's going to get minutes. He's got a good fantasy upside. I really like that pick there as well. Now, I probably would have taken Donovan Mitchell, who went at 8, but that's a good spot there for Collins. And then Stephen, who had picked 9, found himself with Josh Jackson falling into his lap. So you can see there is quite a bit of variation with some of these selections. At pick 10, Kyle McEwen. You know, Kyle, my mate, been on this podcast plenty of times over from Basketball Monster. He made a strange pick in my mind of selecting DJ Wilson. Now, he is based in Milwaukee, so maybe he's got a little bit of an inside scoop there. But DJ Wilson at 10 to Kyle. I suppose with some of those other guys off the board, I can understand where he went. But that's definitely not a pick I would have made. But hey, Kyle, if that's what you want to do, again, there's no wrong answer with really any of these. Caleb Swanigan went at 11, and to me, that's too high for me. Swanigan, I think, now Shane, I don't want to read too much into it, but I feel like that one is very much influenced by Swanigan's performance in Summer League. I just don't see him being a guy who can get productive big minutes in the NBA at any point in his career. I could very well be wrong, but hey, that's why you take the gamble. At pick 12, it was Malik Monk. That's a pretty standard spot. And then Matthew at pick 13 saw Frank Ntilikina slip his way, which I really like that pick for Frank. Frank could start and play 28 minutes this year. So I think that's a great spot there for Matthew to get Frank at pick 13. So you'll see quite a large degree of variation in those drafts. Let's go to the other non-salary cap league. And it started off with the same 3 players, just in a different order. We had Josh, who had the first 2 picks, and he took Dennis Smith at 1 and Markelle Fultz at 2, and that enabled Matt at pick 3 to get Lonzo Ball, which again, those same 3 guys in that same order. Matt, I think it's a great spot for you to get Lonzo, but as I said before, any of those 3 guys can go in any of those spots. At 4, we had Josh Jackson. At 5, we had Jason Tatum. At 6, we had De'Aaron Fox. At 7, we had Donovan Mitchell. And then Jonathan Isaac fell to 8. And I would have loved to have had that pick 8 there and grabbed him. Obviously, I didn't. But that's a good value. But again, really hard to disagree with many of those other ones. This draft went fairly much in sort of draft order. We had Malik Monk go at 9, Ntilikina at 10, Zach Collins at 11, Markkanen at 12, Johnny Collins at 13, which to me, there is no way I would take Markkanen over John Collins in any situation. But Samir, who had the Hawks, if you see something in Lowry, then by all means go ahead, but that's not the way I would look at it. Justin Jackson went at 14, Kyle Kuzma went at 15, which seems a little early for the Kuz. There are other guys that I would take in that area, but once you're out of that first 12 or 13 guys, it does get a little bit weird. It does get a little bit hairy in terms of who I'm going to pick and how it's going to work out. So if you believe in Kuzma overtaking Nance and Randall and being a starting player in the league, then go for it. Bam Adebayo came in at 16, and then we had a real pick from the clouds. Jonah Bolden at pick 17, who's not going to play in the NBA this year. Looked good in Summer League, has fantastic fantasy translations, but has to beat out Ben Simmons and Dario Saric in Philadelphia for power forward minutes. So that could be a struggle for Jonah, but I do love his upside. And then we had another second rounder go up pick 18, and that was Jordan Bell. So a couple of guys with great fantasy potentials and upsides, really, really jumping forward. And I like the thought process of it. Rather than taking guys that went in that spot in real life, taking guys who are going to be able to contribute more in a fantasy sense. I do like that. Caleb Swanigan at 19, Harry Giles at 20, Anunoby at 21 feels like a big steal, as does Jarrett Allen at pick 22. And that's a really good selection there for Jarrett Allen. He's got a chance to start the second half of this season with only Tim Mozgov, the other center, in Brooklyn. Luke Kennard at 23, and while I'm not a massive Luke Kennard fantasy fan, to get him to slip that far is ridiculous, and that is a great selection there by Jesse, so I do really like that. Derek White went at 24, and DJ Wilson went at 25, and that's sort of where we're at in that league. Now, I didn't talk about who I picked in these drafts. I think the only league we've talked about that I've had a selection in has been the Red Rock Dynasty League. I did talk about that, didn't I? Because I took Josh Jackson at pick 6. In that second round at pick 20, I picked Jarrett Allen. So that was my selections in that draft, but I haven't had any selections in these other ones yet. Let's look now at the real salary leagues. We've got the Reggie Evans division. I don't believe I've had a pick in this one. I know I have. This is the one where I picked high. I had the third pick in this draft, so I was pretty happy with this. Lonzo Ball went number 1 in this one. So a little bit of a change up. Markel Fultz went at 2, and I landed Dennis Smith at pick 3, which I was really happy with. To get any of those 3 guys, I would have been wrapped with. John Isaac went to Aaron Brewski there at pick 4. Again, that's the guy that I would take at pick 4 in most situations, so I like that. De'Aaron Fox at 5, Malik Monk at 6, Joshy Jackson at 7, and Jason Tatum at 8, with Donovan Mitchell coming in at pick 9. The one there that I'm a little bit weird on is Malik Monk going so high at pick 7. That's not the way that I would have gone about it. Obviously, Mitchell, Tatum, Jackson, I would have taken all ahead of him. But again, if you're really believing in someone, you do it. Johnny Collins went at 10. That's a good spot for him. Ntilikina, 11. Markkanen, 12. Zach Collins at 13. And Adebayo at 14. Not really much to talk about there. And then Kyle Kuzma again going real early at pick 15. I do have to feel that this is a lot of Summer League and Lakers bias coming into this. I'm not saying that Kuzma's not going to be good. I'm not a massive fan of him, but I do feel that this is a bit of bias coming in there. At pick 16, TJ Leaf, OG Anunoby at pick 17, Kennard at 18, Jordan Bell at 19. So you see Bell again finding himself inside the top 20, despite the fact that he's not going to play any minutes this year. He's barely going to play. Or he might play some, but Pachulia, McGee, David West, Draymond Green, all these guys are there that are going. He's basically replacing James Michael McAdoo. There's Damian Jones, there's Kevon Looney, who are bad, and Bell is better than them, but there's still not a clear path for minutes for him this year. But in terms of his potential, it's great. Swanigan goes at 20, Derek White at 21, Harry Giles at 22, Justin Jackson at 23, Jarrett Allen at 24, which I think that's a good pick there. DJ Wilson, 25, Joshy Hart at 26. And then we've got Jawan Evans. I haven't seen him get picked in any leagues yet. He went at 27. Tyler Lydon at 28. Semi Ojeleye at 29. And Terrence Ferguson at 30. So that was the first round. So some interesting second round picks sliding in there. Then we head to round 2. Brewski had pick 1 and he picked Sindarius Thornwell at pick 1 in the second round, which is 31 overall. I really, really like that pick. That's probably who I was going to take with my selection. Damian Dotson went at 32. I'm not big on Dotson. Frank Jackson at 33, and then I had pick 34, and I selected Jonah Bolden there myself. Again, this is my team that's not really looking to compete, so I'm happy to wait on Bolden at pick 34. I think that's good value. Ike Anunoby went at 35, Frank Mason the third at 36, and the last pick that we've been in that draft is pick 37. And that is Ivan Raab, who has yet to sign a contract with Memphis, but a player who was a top 10 potential selection last season and saw himself fall well into the second round. And just to be honest, I'm doing the Memphis Grizzlies projections at the moment for Basketball Monster. Their roster is disgusting, and disgusting in a fantasy projection sense. They've got too many guys. They've got 16 guys signed already, not including a two-way guy, and not including JaMychal Green or Ivan Raab. Players are going to get cut. You're going to get 2 of James Ennis, Brandon Wright, Andy Harrison, Jarrell Martin. 2 of those guys are going to get cut. Mario Chalmers. These guys can't stay on there unless there's some big Troy Daniels, unless there's some big trades. 2 or 3 of these guys are getting cut. Or some trades involving 2-for-1s or 3-for-1s. They have got 16 guys on their roster already without Green, without Raab. And they have to get down to 15, not including the 2-ways. And the only 2-way they've got so far is Kobe Simmons. Maybe they sign Ivan Raab to a 2-way. I don't know, but they've still got to cut guys because they've still got to add JaMychal, and they've still got 16 already. So there are players that are going to go. Harrison, Ennis, Martin, Wright, Daniels. 2 of these guys are going to go. And it is a really weird team at the moment, the Grizzlies. And especially considering they have no power forwards. At the moment, Green's not signed. There's Brandon Wright, there's Marcus Gasol. There's Jarrell Martin and Deontay Davis. Are you comfortable with any of those that you're starting for? Obviously, Gasol starts at the 5, but are you comfortable with Brandon Wright next to him? Are you comfortable with Deontay Davis next to him? Are you comfortable with Jarrell Martin next to him? And your answer to all those questions should be no. If Green comes back, then fine. But Green's not. He's not the greatest. He's okay, but he's not fantastic. And then they've just got no depth, and they're going to have to cut people. It's a really, really weird situation, that Memphis roster, and it's going to be interesting to see how they get themselves down to that 15-man roster and who ends up either getting traded or getting cut, because someone is. We don't know who it's going to be, but someone definitely is going to get moved on. We've got one more of these leagues to talk about, and that is the crazy Judd Buechler division, which is a real salary cap league. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but this league trades like I have never seen anything before. And I don't necessarily mean that as a compliment. the amount of trades that are going down in this league are out of control. Like, legitimately, I woke up today to, I think, 9 trades to be processed in like a 10-hour period. I reckon there's been 60 trades this offseason, and I'm not even exaggerating. And I think I've been involved in one, maybe none. I don't even know if I've been involved in any of them. And people love trading, but sometimes you get people together who love trading, and they trade literally for the sake of trading. And I feel that that's a lot of what's going on, especially in this league, but it happens all throughout fantasy. And you hear me talk about it all the time. People want to trade because they want to trade, not because they want to make their team better. And I reckon nearly half the time that trades are made, or over half the time, both teams end up coming out worse because people are just so keen on making trades and envisage themselves as the next Danny Ainge or whichever GM you want to put in, Sam Hinkie, whatever name you want to put in there. Oh, I'm swindling this guy, I'm doing this. And people want to make trades for making trades. It's like the obsession with the trade machine. Oh, how about this for a fake trade? How about this for a fake trade? How about I trade you my left nut and you give me 2 pairs of black socks? Cool. People just love trading, and I'm not having a go at people in this league, but the amount of trading in this league is absolutely out of control. And I think a lot of the time, people are hurting themselves with excessive trades. Some people are going to win. There's no doubt. Some people are going to get an advantage out of it. But the majority, I think, end up harming themselves or harming their team. Now, in saying that, this league has flown through. We're at 53 picks already at the time of recording. So it's almost done, this rookie draft. So let's go through the order of who's been picked. Fultz at 1, Smith at 2, Ball at 3. Fantastic. De'Aaron Fox at 4. That's a pretty standard top 4. Joshy Jackson, Jason Tatum, Jonathan Isaac as 5, 6, and 7. Johnny Collins went at 8 and Donovan Mitchell at 9. Really, I really can't fault any of those selections. I would have taken Isaac ahead of Jackson and Tatum and Fox, but whatever. The guy that took Fox, Jackson, and Tatum had all 3 of those picks. He had pick 4, 5, and 6, I'm sure due to excessive trading. Frank Ntilikina goes at 10, Malik Monk at 11, Zach Collins at 12, and Larry Markkinen at 13. Again, absolutely no complaints with any of that. That's fantastic. Bam Adebayo at 14, and then that name again, Kyle Kuzma at 15. That's 3 leagues where he's gone inside the top 16, I believe, which is a huge jump from where he was drafted, which is pick 27. So it's going to be interesting to see how he pans out. Jarrett Allen at 16. Caleb Swanigan at 17, another guy who's using whose summer league form is causing him to rise up fantasy draft boards. Justin Jackson at 18 and Jordan Bell at 19. So that's 3 of the 4 30-team leagues where Jordan Bell has gone inside the top 20. OG Anunoby at 20, Kennard at 21, Derek White at 22, TJ Leaf at 23, and Jonah Bolden at 24. DJ Wilson 25, Harry Giles 26, Ivan Rabb at 27, which feels a little bit early for Rabby considering, again, he hasn't signed. But I suppose Jason's looking at that thinking, well, the Grizzlies have no big men. So if he is signed and on the roster, then that could work out. We had a weird one here at pick 28 with Isaiah Hartenstein getting selected. He won't play this year. I guess it's like, Jonah Bolden's not going to play. Hartenstein does have some really, really fantastic fantasy translation, so maybe I should take that back. Maybe I'm being a little bit harsh on that pick, but there were some other guys around, but he's a sleeper. I reckon you could have got him a bit later. Jawan Evans at 29, Ike Anunoby at 30. The second round, Joshy Hart at 31 and Sterling Brown at 32. Really like Sterling Brown. I like that. I like Josh Hart. I like Jawan Evans. I like Sterling Brown there a lot as well, so Big Honey made a good selection there at 32. Shemi Ojale at 33 and Terrence Ferguson at 34, which could be a real steal. I don't know how Ferguson's going to work out, but pick 34 is sensational value for him. Dwayne Bacon of the Charlotte Hornets at 35. I'm definitely not sold on that guy. Justin Patton at 36, a big fall from a guy that was pick 17. I hate that he was drafted there to the Timberwolves. I'm not a huge fan of Patton, but I think that's a pretty good spot to select him in. Damian Dotson at 37, Monty Morris at 38. Love that for Monty Morris. Frank Mason at 39 and Sindarius Thornwell at 40, which is a huge steal, I believe. Tony Bradley, another first rounder who slid all the way to 41. Frank Jackson at 42, Tyler Lydon, another first rounder who finds himself in the second round at 43, Dylan Brooks at 44, Wes Iwundu at 45, Thomas Bryant 46. We're getting down to the end of the draft, obviously. Tyler Dorsey at 47, Edmund Sumner at 48, who's on a two-way with Indiana. Jaron Blossomgame at 49, Cam Oliver at 50, an undrafted player for the Rockets. Andres Pesečniks at 51, which for a first rounder, yes, he's not coming over. He might not come over for a couple of years, but to get a first rounder at 51, I think is good value. Devon Reed at 52, and the last pick that's been made in that league was Alec Peters at pick 53. So I think the big takeaway that if you are looking to do dynasty drafts and rookie drafts out of these 5 leagues that have done is that Fultz, Ball, and Smith are going in the top. They're the top 3 picks. They should be the top 3 rookies off the board come redraft leagues, and they're going to be the top 3 in dynasties. Whatever order you take them, that's up for debate. Again, my order is Fultz, Ball, Smith, but it's debatable. After that, you see a selection of guys. Isaac went at 4 and at quite a few. Fox went at 4. Joshy Jackson went at 4. I think the Fox and Isaac are probably the ones that I would look at. But again, any of these guys in that zone, the players that are always going to jump up, or to me should be jumping up, your John Collins and Donovan Mitchell, they're going to take those big leaps forward. And guys that I think should fall a bit is a Larry Markkinen. The other 2 guys who are getting perhaps overhyped, in my opinion they are, is Swanigan and Kuzma, who have found themselves getting themselves inside the top 20, I think based on the back of Summer League action. And Jonah Bolden and Jordan Bell as the two prize second rounders who are jumping up quite high. The other second rounders I think you want are Jawan Evans and Sindarius Thornwell. They're the guys who have quite a bit of value in that second round zone. So if you want more information on these drafts or where players got picked or how it pans out after this, please let me know. If you are a Patreon subscriber, you would have got the information over the last day or two about how to join the Red Rock Listener Leagues, the head-to-head and rotisserie redraft leagues. I'll give you guys a week or so to sign up for that. Then I will open up those spots to the non-Patreon subscribers. There should be some spots left, but there's not going to be a huge amount. I know you guys have filled up quite a few already, so thank you for that. If you want to be a Patreon subscriber and help the show, it is patreon.com/redrock_bball. And make sure you are checking out the rest of the Locked On Podcast Network, whether it's on our live Thursdays or just by downloading the shows in your podcast catcher and listening to your favorite team every day. Today's sponsor was Blue Apron, so check out them at blueapron.com and remember the /LOFB to get yourself your 3 free meals and help support the show as well. Follow me on Twitter at redrock_bball where you can ask me your questions and I will get back to you as best as I can. I think we're done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. Tony Roten.